Hi, I'm Peggy from Peggy's Tropical Garden. Thanks for joining me. Today I'd like to talk to you about one of my favorite plants. Sorry about that. There's a gnat flying around here and it's driving me nuts. Today I'm not going to talk to you about one of my favorite plants. I think we're going to talk about fungus gnats. Hello and welcome to Peggy's Tropical Garden, coming to you from the Florida Keys. If you're someone who's into plants, there's a good chance that you've had an experience with fungus gnats. I hadn't really had any major bouts with fungus gnats until probably about 6 months ago, and dealing with them for the first time, I found it a little bit overwhelming. Took care of the problem, everything was easygoing until yesterday. I noticed I have fungus gnats again. And those are the little annoying bugs that you can be sitting looking at TV or whatever, and they're flying around your head and you're constantly doing this, or they're buzzing in your ear. And there's a reason why they're after your ears, your nose, your mouth, your eyes. They're attracted to moisture. They look like miniature mosquitoes. They're, almost identical to them. Of course, they don't bite you or anything like that. They can be so very annoying. One of the reasons there's so many videos, if you look on YouTube right now, I'm sure you can find hundreds of videos on eradicating fungus gnats. And the reason there's so many of them is it's such a common problem. And they're so hard to get rid of at times because they reproduce so quickly. So as soon as you see them, you want to get rid of them. You don't want to delay. I better get on it before they get out of hand. And that's one of my biggest tips. As soon as you notice you have fungus gnats, be doing something about it because they reproduce quickly. The lifespan of a fungus gnat is only about a week. But in that week, a female fungus gnat can lay up to 300 eggs, and they hatch within 3 days. So therein lies the problem. They reproduce so quickly that if you're not on top of things, before you know it, you may end up with an infestation. And that's why I highly recommend that as soon as you notice that you have an issue with fungus gnats, you treat them in some way. Even if it's not a lot of them in the beginning, that's really when you want to get on them and do something before it does become a problem. Because with them reproducing as quickly as they do, if you don't do anything, say 3 or 4 weeks, you could end up with thousands of fungus gnats in your house. One of my first tips in dealing with fungus gnats and any other kind of pest is stop all movement of your plants. And when I notice any kind of issue, the first thing I do is I don't bring any of my outdoor plants onto my patio, on my screen porch, and I don't bring any of those plants into my home. A lot of times, that's when I find that things are introduced into my home or onto my screen room, is when I'm transferring plants between indoors and outdoors, or between my yard and my screen porch. So to make it easier to deal with, just stop all movement of plants. The plants that are inside, just leave them inside. The ones that are outside, leave them outside. The next tip that I have is identify your source of the gnats. Now, if you only have 1 or 2 plants, 5 or 6 plants, it's a lot easier than if you have hundreds of plants. I have a lot of plants, so what I do is I just consider that they're all the source, and I treat them all like they are the source of an infestation. I mean, I go in and I go hard, okay? What you want to do is you want to dry up the water. I notice that I have more fungus gnats in areas where I have water sources. So in my home, that would be my hydroponic grow box. That would be my orchids that I have growing semi-hydroponically and hydrogen pellets, and my self-watering pots. Okay, so knowing that, those are going to be some of the first places that I go. What you want to do is dry things out. So that means the catch pot that you have for your self-watering pots, empty it. Your plant should be fine a few days without that water. Don't water your plants. Let that first inch or two of soil dry out. I also dump out the water that is in my my semi-hydroponic orchids are in. So once you've eliminated all of the standing water and let your soil dry out, of course not so much so that you kill your plants, just want to mention that. But once you've done that, sometimes that's going to be enough to eliminate the fungus gnats. Now, if you have a lot of plants, chances are that's not going to work for you, and you're going to have to go to the next step. Now, if you're someone who has concerns about bringing chemicals into your home or introducing them to your plants, this may be a solution for you. Just using 3% hydrogen peroxide. It's very easy to do. It kills the larvae as well as the gnats. And all you have to do is take your 3% hydrogen peroxide, 1 part peroxide, and 4 parts distilled or filtered water. I use my zero water filter that I wasn't, a zero water pitcher that I wasn't using, and I run my water through that so that I don't have to buy distilled water. So 4 parts water, 1 part hydrogen peroxide, mix it up, and then you're just going to take your plant, and if you are a bottom waterer, this is going to be one of those times when you want to top water, and you just pour the water evenly across the across the top of the plant, making sure that it soaks through the soil, so thoroughly watering. And it's just that simple. And like I said, this method will kill the larvae as well as the gnats. Now, this is beneficial to the roots because it does aerate the roots of the plant as well. So you can do this as a preventative measure on a regular basis, but you don't want to do it too frequently. Initially, I would do it again in 2 weeks, and then after that, maybe once a month. The next method of treatment that I use is Mosquito Bits. And as you can see on the container here, it says that it is also for gnats. Now, this is an indoor, and this is something you can use indoors and outdoors, and it can be used in water gardens, flower pots, bird baths, anywhere where you have mosquitoes and gnats. So it's important that you read the instructions as well as any precautions. And the instructions say to simply sprinkle on the soil until the area is covered. I don't use quite that much. So as you can see, I put a little on here. Don't come close to covering it, but I find that this works for me. But you're supposed to cover the entire area. This is what it looks like. And then you're supposed to water as normal. I'm not going to water thoroughly because I just watered these plants and I don't want to risk overwatering my plants. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just put a little bit of water on the top. And that should be enough to distribute and release the chemical, at least some. And with the next watering, it will be released more. So this is supposed to distribute the water. When you water it, it activates the chemicals where the gnats and the larvae feed, and then they die. And it's recommended that you repeat this for 3 weeks. And if they reappear, then you would go through the whole process again. So, and like I said, make sure you read the information on the back and the precautions. The next method that I use sometimes for fungus gnats is this Bonide treatment. It's a systemic houseplant insect control. And I like this because it's good for thrips, it's good for whiteflies, it's good for fungus gnats, scale, all kinds of things. And again, make sure you take all necessary precautions, read directions. Now, it says for a 4-inch pot that you would need 2.5 teaspoons. Again, I use less. When I'm using chemicals, I tend to go light on them. So you simply sprinkle the granules evenly on the top of the soil. And these are really tiny little black granules. And so you sprinkle them on the soil. then you're going to water them in, but you're not going to do a deep watering because you don't want to just flush it through the plant. So, and again, I have watered these plants, so I'm not going to do a deep watering. What I'm doing now is just distributing the granules into the top layer of the soil as per the instructions as well. Now, this is a systemic. So the way this works is the water helps get it into the soil. The roots intake the chemical as it takes in the water, and the systemic becomes chemically a part of the plant or in the plant. And when the gnats feed on the plant, they'll die. And you can barely see these. I'm trying to show you before I water this particular area. They're tiny little granules, and that's one thing I don't like about using this, is because I can't see it. And I don't know whether I've used it in this particular plant and things like that. So I really like the things that you can see. But I find this to be one of the most effective methods that I use. And I always like to use a systemic. Now, another non-chemical method for killing fungus gnats is these yellow sticky traps. And I'm going to put a link down below for all of these. I bought them all on Amazon. And these are simply adhesive things. They're like stickers, basically. These are shaped like butterflies. Some of them are just little boxes and things like that. They're yellow, nice and bright. I don't know if that makes a difference to the gnat, but as you can see, it just has this little thing on the back. You peel it off. It's actually on both sides. You peel it off, and then it becomes one big sticker. And here's a plant that I've had one of these in for probably about a month and a half. It's got a couple of fungus gnats on it. And I kind of have mixed emotion about these. They work as long as the insect flies and sticks on there. Once it hits it, it's definitely sticking. It's very sticky. But one of my biggest problems with it is just like the bugs get stuck on it, your leaves of your plants get stuck on it. And if this hits the leaf of any plant, 9 times out of 10, your plant will be ripped. It's just really that sticky. So they do work. But again, if that gnat or whatever doesn't go right onto this, it's not going to do anything. But they're a nice non-chemical method, and they are effective. So, and I also like that you can leave these on any time. So as another preventative measure, just having them on. Personally though, I think they look a little gross when they're sitting around and they have bugs stuck on them. So that's just a personal thing. So just kind of maybe put them in an area that's tucked away is what I try to do. But these are inexpensive and they worked as well. And the final method that I'm going to share with you today of getting rid of fungus gnats is diatomaceous earth. I don't have any on hand, so I can't show you how to do that. So I'm just going to kind of tell you about it. It's a natural substance, so if you're someone who does not want to use chemicals in your home, this is another method that you may consider. Diatomaceous clay is made primarily of silica, which is a natural occurring substance. It's a fine white powder that feels kind of like chalk. And all you do with it is you sprinkle it on the surface of your soil. You'll have to do this periodically in accordance with the instructions on the container. And eventually it builds up a protective layer and it kills the larvae as well as the gnats. So there you have it, the methods I've tried. One other way I have tried that I learned on the internet was one of the first things I tried was where you take, juice and dish liquid and you put it in a container, you cover it with plastic, put a hole in it. I know that some people have had success doing that. I caught one gnat in like a week, so it wasn't working for me. But there's a lot of other methods out there. Find one that works for you, and as soon as you see gnats in your home, go for it. Take care of it before it becomes a bigger problem. So I hope that helped you answer some questions about getting rid of gnats today. I've got to get to work getting rid of the gnats in my home. There's not many, but like I said, I don't want to wait until there is a problem. I want to take care of it before there is a problem. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support of my channel. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.